Shabbat Shalom. Let's learn Parshat Tetzaveh with Rashi's commentary. We're in Exodus chapter 27, verse 20, and we're going to take a look at the first verse of the Parsha, from which we get the name of this week's Torah portion, Tetzaveh. The Torah teaches, Ve'ata Tetzaveh et Bnei Yisrael, Vayikchu elecha shemen zayit zach katit lama'or, laha'alot ner tamid. Further instruct the Israelites to bring you clear olive oil of beaten olives, for the lighting of the menorah in the tabernacle, for kindling those lamps on a regular basis. So the regular lighting of the menorah is described by the word tamid, which incidentally has been somewhat reinterpreted to mean that a light should be kept on forever above the ark in our sanctuaries. It doesn't mean that a light necessarily needed to be left on forever. That's a real indulgence in terms of what we're able to do in modernity. It meant that on a regular basis, on an everyday basis, on a ritually fixed basis, Aaron, the priests, would come and do the lighting of the menorah in a very particular way with a very particular oil. This verse explains what that oil needs to be. Rashi goes further and gives us insight into the process by which the oil was prepared. Obviously, we needed some expert oil makers in order to do the assist here and bring this olive oil to Aaron, to the priests, and to the Kohanim throughout the ages. Rashi explains, Hazeitim ha'iyah kotesh b'machteshet. The olives, in order to make the oil, must be put into the mortar. The einot tochnan berechaim, but you don't grind them in a mill. So you use mortar and pestle, and you don't use a mill to grind these olives from which you need to extract this pure olive oil for lighting. Kedei shelo yehubo shmarim, in order for there to be no sediment in this special pure olive oil for lighting. V'achar shotzi tipar rishona, and after you've extracted the very first drop of oil from the olive, machnitzim l'reichayim v'tochnan, then you can bring them to the mill and use the millstones. But what of that oil that's now extracted in the mill? V'hashemen hasheni pasul l'menorah, that oil that you create with the millstones is not the oil that may be used for lighting. But what? Kasher l'minchot. It is kosher for mincha offerings, for meal offerings. Take oil and you knead it together with flour. Shenemar, as the Torah taught, katit lama'or, it must be beaten olives from which you extract the oil, and thusly you use only that first extraction. And then you take those olives and you can bring them to the mill. Now that creates the purest olive oil, suitable only for the menorah, and it was to be extracted using that mortar and not the mill. No sediment at all. Now, given that the menorah contains 7 lamps, and each held, according to our tradition, half a log, and that is about 10 ounces, or if you want to do drop by drop, about 4,800 drops of oil. Think about the daily consumption of olive oil that was required. Think about how many olives were needed for that process. That would be 33,600 olives. Now, think about what a task that was. How focused the producers of that oil must have been, how careful and caring they were in the production of that oil for sacred use. When we think about the kind of energy it takes to exert ourselves and to do something in a pure way, we get a little bit of insight into what it is we really value and hold as most important in our lives. Do we truly exert ourselves and focus in on the process of creating the relationships that we have? How we take care of our bodies, how we expand our minds, what kind of intentionality we have when it comes to engaging mitzvot, being part of the Jewish people. If we examine and look at times that we've invested considerable efforts to achieve something very unique or pure, and we think about the purposes and the motivations behind our actions, we get insights into the depth of our characters. Try to find a time, think about a time when one by one we brought to bear something that we just needed to press, given our own strength. No extra machines out there to process it all. No computers to run it through. Just us and the fruits of the tree, if you will. Just our own strength, pressing a little bit in order to find the pure kernel or shemen, or the oil that lies within, the wisdom that lies within, the light that lies within some type of, whether it be article we needed to read, moment in time that we wanted to celebrate with someone, to build a relationship. How did we make it pure, full of love, full of a search for truth, full of light? Here we're talking about the lighting of the menorah in the tabernacle. We're also metaphorically thinking about the light in our lives and being on the search for more enlightenment always. So this inspiration from Torah and through Rashi's description of a very menial process towards sacred purposes is a wonderful moment in the Torah's chapters about all the details of the work of the tabernacle, the clothing of the priests, the process of making the oil that the Israelites participated in order to create the richest light in the sacred precincts of our lives. Shabbat Shalom.